Hi, fellow Django developers. Ezekiel here from Django.com. We'll discuss interesting Django topics that helps you grow, improve as a Django developer. If that sounds interesting, like, subscribe, share this video with anyone if you find this video important. Let's get into it. So today we are going to look at the Django messages frameworks, right? So in the last tutorial where we looked at how to handle post requests in Django, which is what we did here, we were able to create books. Now after creating that book, we return this HTTP response, right? Then we return this HTTP response, but what we really want to happen is after creating these books, maybe we return a HTML template where we render out the books, right? Where we render out the books, then we give the user a message saying, "Well, congrats, your book was created successfully," right? So that is where Django message frameworks comes in, right? So why do you want to use Django message frameworks? Now, Django message frameworks is like a template variable that when you create it, it gets passed into your template and it expires after that request, right? So if you think about it, when we create this book, when we make a request into this view function right here and create the book instance, we want that message to only be available for that request. When we redirect again, we don't want the user to see that message again, because when we reload again, we don't want the user to see that message. Or when we go to another link, another page, we don't want the user to see that message again, because obviously he didn't create a book again. And that, as we are going, we understand what I'm trying to say, right? So Django messages framework. So first thing first, what do we want? We want, after creating this book, we want to redirect to a template file where we can list our books, right? Now the listing of books will be done in the next tutorial, but for now we'll just create a view function and a URL where we will list the books, right? So in the next tutorial, we'll be looking at how to actually query the database and get instances of the books that are saved in the database, then render it out in the template, right? That will be what we'll be doing in the next tutorial. But for now, let's just create the view, right? Let's just create the view function. We'll create a function and name it list books, right? Then accept this request argument, then return render, right? Then request, then list books. Let's say that's the name of our HTML file, list books, right? So we'll go to our template folder right here. So we'll go to our templates folder right here. If we come here, templates, we'll create a new HTML template and call it list books, right? So we'll go and copy what we have here. Go and copy the header tags right here. You can see what we are doing right now. Copying these header tags is not actually okay, right? You don't want to be doing this in your production application, right? We'll look at template inheritance maybe after the next tutorial, right? So template inheritance, so that you avoid copying this head and a part of your code that you want to have repeatedly, right? So but for now, we come here, we paste this. After pasting this, we close this div, we close this div, we close the body, we close the HTML, right? So now inside here, we'll just output a message to say, let's give this a bootstrap class of test center. Here we output a message to say list of books, right? In the next tutorial, we'll work on this template more and see how we can list our books out, right? So after we have created the view function here, we have created the HTML file. Now the next thing should be creating a URL parameter for it. So we say the name of the view function is list books, right? We go back part, then this part will be, let's name it list books also. Then our view here, then the name is list books. So we have that created. So if we go to our browser, let me open my terminal. Our terminal is running, our development server is running right now. So if we go to our browser, let me copy this, come here and say list books. You can see we are getting this right here, list books. That's, we are outputting, we are correctly outputting the template that we just created, right? The list books template, right? So if we go back now, looking at the, let's now look at the message frameworks, right? So the message frameworks, let's import it first. It's imported from the Django contrib, django.contrib. We import the messages, right? So these messages, in this message, so after creating these books, this form.save, then the next thing should be, we'll create the message. So we'll say messages dot, right? So these messages, there are different types of messages. We can have the success message, we can have the success message, we can have the error message here, the info message, the success message, the warning message, etc, right? So for us, this is a success message because we are creating a book successfully. So we say success, right? Now the first argument is the request, right? Is a request argument. That's this request that was passed into the view function. So we accept it here, request, right? The next argument will be the message, right? The message that you want to output on the browser, the message that you want to return to the user. So we say book was created successfully, right? So we are writing out the message. Now the next thing will be redirecting. We don't want to return this HTML response no more. We want to redirect to this view function here. So from Django shortcuts, we import redirect, right? So we import redirect right here, right? So what does this redirect do? This redirect simply returns us to a URL parameter, right? So instead of returning this HTTP response, we return redirect. Now in this redirect, we give a name of the name of the HTTP, the name of the URL path. What am I trying to say? The name of the URL path. This is the name of this URL path. This is the name of this URL path. This is the name of this URL path. So we give this name right here, right? Go back to our view, give this name, right? So what will happen now? We say in the forms.save, after saving the form, we create the message, the success message, then we redirect to this list books, right? So after this, you can see that in our list books, there's no way we are not still outputting the messages, right? So let's look at how to output the messages in the HTML template, right? So if we come here, we say, right, I don't know if you don't understand this syntax here, this syntax I'm about to write. If you don't understand it, I think you should look at the templates and the templates tutorial. I think we have 2 tutorials on the templates tutorial 1 and 2, right? And maybe you should watch both of them if you don't understand this syntax I'm about to write here. So for message in messages, right, then we say end for. If I can type end for, then after that we say I will explain what I'm doing here. So if message, then we end if, and if after ending the if, we say div class. We'll come back to this div class, then we output the message, right? So here we can, because we are using Bootstrap, we say alert. Here should be message dot tags, right? So what am I doing here? I'm saying for message in messages, right? So when we created this message, obviously we can create many messages. You can come here and say messages dot maybe success again and say book was created excellently, whatever, right? We can have many messages passed. We can have many messages during this request, right, while running this request this view function, right? So that's why messages is a list, as you can see right here. So that's why messages is a list, right? So it's a list, it's a Python list. So we are saying for message in messages, that's we're looping over the list, right? So we're saying if message here checks if there is actually, if the message string actually contains something, right? If it's not empty, if it's not something like, maybe something like this, right? So if message, that's what this line does here. Then what are we doing here? We simply output the message. So we loop over each message, check if the message is not empty. If it's not empty, we output the message. Now this alert, then message or tags. This alert here is simply a bootstrap class, right? A bootstrap class to help us type this alert. So this is a bootstrap class. Then alert dash message. So bootstrap message class, alert class are usually like this: alert, right, as a class, then alert maybe success, right, depending on the type of alert, or maybe error, or maybe warning, if you know about bootstrap, right? So this message or tags, right, outputs the type of message we are trying to pass in. So it will be, for this instance, it will be message, it will be success, right? So this message, for this message right here, the tags will be success. If we create maybe messages.error, the tag will be error. If we create messages.warning, the tag will be warning. So we have success right here. So right now we are creating the message. We are redirecting to this URL. Now in the HTML template, we are outputting the message. So fingers crossed. Hopefully, let's test and see what we have. Let me spin it. So our development server is still running. Let's close it back. So if we go back and go to create book, right? So if we come here, we are allowed to create book. So what's the name of the book? Let me reduce this. What's the name of the book? Let's say another book, right? My spelling is wrong, but whatever. Then the message, you say this is a message, right? So if we click this submit right here, so you can see we have this book was created successfully, then list of books, right? Why? Because after creating these books right here, after sending it to the database, saving it to the database, we created this book, then we are directed to this list books, right? So our function is working correctly. So what I was trying to explain about the request getting this message here being destroyed in another request. You can see after creating this book, if we redirect again, if we reload again, you can see the message is gone. So the messages framework, Django message framework, actually is available, actually exists after a single request. So after another request, it destroys, right? Which is actually what we want, which is actually why we are using it, right? So in the next tutorial, we said we'll be looking at how to list out the book instances here, right? So we'll go to the data in this request here, in this view function right here, we'll access the database, query the database, using Django ORM. Obviously, we'll query the database and get the book instances and render it out in the template, right? So if you are not subscribed, subscribe already, turn on the notification, all the good stuff. Take care of yourself. Have a nice day. Peace.